sustained use of fitness applications to increase physical activity has proven difficult. This trend is heightened when looking at minority populations. For example, while Hispanics have a higher rate of smartphone adoption compared to the general population, they engage with mobile health applications at a much lower rate than the national average. The lower usage of mHealth apps across the Hispanic population and other underserved communities may occur because these technologies do not align with users' unique characteristics, socioeconomic, and cultural settings. Additionally, most studies testing the efficacy of mHealth technologies have been conducted with a predominantly white population and do not address the specific needs of non-white communities. Thus, in this project, we explore if the current state of fitness applications is effective at satisfying the needs of Hispanic adults, and we use self-determination theory and the motivational technology model as theoretical frameworks. According to self-determination theory, intrinsic motivation, or the innate enjoyment of an activity, can be achieved by appealing to individuals' innate psychological needs of autonomy, competence, and relatedness. And the motivational technology model explains that technological affordances, specifically interactivity, customization, and navigability, can be used to trigger these needs en route to intrinsic motivation to use the device and health behaviors and benefits. Importantly as well, self-determination theory distinguishes between 4 forms of extrinsic motivation that range in a continuum based on the degree that an individual has internalized and integrated that behavior into the self, and these go from external regulation to intrinsic motivation. Thus, through this research, we ask, what is the relationship between the key indicators of the motivational technology model and the 4 forms of motivation? We also ask if need satisfaction is the mediator to explain these relationships. And so in this project, we conducted an online survey with 211 current fitness application users who self-identify as Hispanics. After consenting to participate, participants were asked for the name of the current fitness application they use. Participants were asked to answer the remainder of the questionnaire thinking about their experiences with this application in particular. We also embedded the application listed by participants in the instructions of the following questions to ensure that their answers reflected only the experiences with their primary application and not other fitness devices that they might have utilized. Then, participants were asked how often they use a series of features from the application hypothesized to support or inhibit need satisfaction according to the motivational technology model. These features were derived by a research assistant who explored the 50 most popular fitness applications from the Android and Apple App Store and noted all features that these apps had that corresponded to those hypothesized to afford navigability, customization, and navigability as conceptualized by the motivational technology model. Finally, participants were asked about their need satisfaction and types of motivation to use the device. So what did we find? So to analyze the data, we ran a series of hierarchical linear regressions, and we found that, first, interactivity is positively associated with intrinsic motivation, which is great. But we also found that interactivity is a positive predictor of introjected and external regulation. Additionally, when it comes to navigability, navigability was positively associated with intrinsic and identified regulation, and negatively associated with introjected regulation. Furthermore, the use of customization features was a positive predictor of introjected regulation. Then, to analyze the psychological mechanisms for these effects, we ran a series of mediation analysis using process macro model number 4, and this is how the model looked like. When entering the use of navigability features as the independent variable, our mediation analysis revealed that using features of navigability satisfied the needs of autonomy of users. Autonomy satisfaction, in turn, increased identified regulation but decreased external regulation. Then, when entering the use of interactivity as the independent variable, we found that using these features of interactivity increased relatedness satisfaction, which in turn increased intrinsic, identified regulation, and introjected regulation. However, we also find that interactivity reduced autonomy satisfaction. Because autonomy satisfaction is a positive predictor of identified regulation, this results in an overall negative effect of the use of interactivity on identified regulation. Conversely, because autonomy was negatively associated with external regulation, this results in an overall positive effect of the use of interactivity features on external regulation. So what do these findings mean? Our findings reveal the pivotal role of using features that afford interactivity and relatedness satisfaction at motivating fitness app use among Hispanic users. It reveals that the increased relatedness via interacting with other users was a positive predictor of intrinsic motivation, identified regulation, and introjected regulation, but it was also a negative predictor of external regulation. So this reveals that interactivity is helpful at internalizing the behavior, which is the use of the fitness app, toward more internal forms of regulation. This finding is also consistent with self-determination theory, which suggests that an activity does not have to necessarily be driven by intrinsic motivation, but can be driven by highly autonomous extrinsic motivators. However, we also find that interactivity is a double-edged sword, because interactivity also decreased autonomy satisfaction. This is possibly due to social comparison tendencies that are generated through the focus on the quantifiable self of fitness applications. Thus, in designing fitness applications, designers should incorporate interactivity in a way that foments relatedness without compromising autonomy. In other words, using interactivity that detracts social comparison. Some features could be, for example, features of group comments and discussions based on specific prompts. These features are already available but may be highlighted. Another idea is to use chatbots that provide personalized behavioral change suggestions and support. These chatbots may provide the conversationality necessary to increase relatedness without resulting in social comparison or similar tendencies that may decrease user autonomy or control. Social support can also be prevented through visualizations and data representations that focus on collaboration and social support rather than competition. In fact, the results of our study reveal significant effects of data visualizations and other navigability features on competence and autonomy satisfaction. Finally, surprisingly, we also found that customization features only predicted introjected regulation, which is the motivation or the use of the application because of avoiding anxiety and for ego protection. It seems that current customization options, which are centered on selecting workout routines based on personal information such as age, gender, or goal, may not be relevant to Hispanic users' needs and motivations. So a viable option is to tailor or personalize activities and messages not only based on personal information, but also culture, by acknowledging how each individual perceives their own culture and the values and norms that are important to them. This approach acknowledges that Hispanics are not a monolith and that diverse opinions and values within the community do exist. Now, these suggestions can also be applied to members of the population at large, like, for example, providing customization that align with different lifestyles. This can be beneficial for users of different backgrounds and with different preferences whose needs are not met by fitness applications. Now, of course, like any study, our study is not without limitations. We recruited participants who are current users of fitness app, which means that our findings represent users who already have an initial motivation. Our participants were not from the US. As such, it is not representative of Hispanics globally. And of course, diverse opinions and values exist within the Hispanic community, which really makes it difficult for designing apps, and it is rather complex. And so with this, if you have any questions that you would like to follow up with, please feel free to email to this email address in your screen.